Thank you, Gabriela Ramos. As we just heard there, AI is very much a societal conversation. And I was particularly struck by one data point that she gave us. Only 22% of AI professionals are women. Now, as low as 22% is, I'm sure this number is much lower if we look at underrepresented communities and Indigenous communities. We need to prioritize inclusivity and accessibility in AI development as well, ensuring that it's from its conception to its benefits, it's available to everyone. Here to discuss ways in which we're making AI inclusive for all, please welcome my next two guests. Founder of pipikwan, pêhtâkwan, Shani Gwin, and world leader from Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, Anthony Virapan. Welcome, come up. Welcome to you both to Change Now. Shani, you're committed to building capacity within Indigenous and non-Indigenous organizations through public relations, meaningful impact, and inspiring design and strategic communications. And I'm particularly looking forward to hearing more about the AI assistant you've created shortly. Taina is good.
Wasigan Kisawatswe.
Thank you. I was never going to pronounce that correctly. Anthony, at Microsoft, you're working with entrepreneurs and startups to scale impact with a special emphasis on education, including underrepresented communities in AI development. Welcome to you both. Now, we've met our speakers. I'd love to meet you very quickly and understand a little bit about our audience and who we're addressing. So hands up, please. How many of you are actively working to promote and advance inclusivity? All right, good number of hands going up. That's great. How many of you are actively working in AI development? Okay. How many of you just put your hands up to both of those questions? You are both working in AI inclusivity in development. Okay, there's a good number of hands that we have here. Fantastic. Our aim is that through our conversation and over the next 20 minutes, we're able to help everyone be better informed as to how we can do this. Let's start off by thinking about what does it mean and how do we prioritize and ensure that both individuals and communities have the skills and agencies to shape and design AI that serves them and that serves their communities. Anthony, how are you doing this through your work with entrepreneurs and startups?
Yeah, that's an important question. And when we heard about, Gabriela Ramos, she started about speaking about the change with AI and the opportunity. If some of you participated this morning in different sessions, we mentioned this number about the opportunity, and by 2027, we know that AI could create about 70 million new jobs, new opportunities. But to do that, we need to prepare the people, to skill the people with new digital and AI skills. And that's what we are doing at Microsoft. So it's part also of our responsibility to help people and train people to be ready for this next generation of jobs. And that's why we helped more than 14 million people in the world with AI certifications, with new skills. And we do that in different countries, with different type of people and underserved community. But to do that, that requires collaboration with the different key stakeholders that includes governments, educations, non-profit organizations, and entrepreneurs. That's why I really want also to make a connections with the startups world, with the tech startups. I will add a question to what you asked to the audience, Kristen, about how many of you are entrepreneurs in the room? So we really need you. I mean, in this skilling initiative and on how we really make sure this is concrete for people, we need entrepreneurs because that's required to go fast and to help people with concrete solutions. And that's also why I like Change Now, because it's really designed with concrete solutions and showcase some startups and entrepreneurs with innovation. So I can also share more examples about that, but yes, wanted to share that first.
Fantastic, thank you, Anthony. Yes, speaking to entrepreneurs, it's definitely our audience here. We have one also entrepreneur and someone who's doing a lot of work for advocacy for Indigenous communities here. Shani, what does it mean for you, and how are you prioritizing individuals and communities in AI development through your work?
Tanse, Mahenge no Yoyo Esqueo Natsiga-san. I just want to talk about how I am just a walking example of including. I don't come from an AI background. I'm not technologically savvy. I can't even say the word apparently. But I found an opportunity. I saw a need and I involved myself. And when it comes to Indigenous people, specifically to Canada and the US, a lot of our folks do not have access to high-speed internet. And so we can't actually even try to play around with AI, never mind trying to develop our skills. So one thing I think is really important is seeking out relationships, building those opportunities in. Anyone can be trained. Anyone can learn about AI and what it can do. And here's an example. Settlers brought beading to our lands, and look what we did with it. We created something beautiful and new and special. And I think that's what I'm doing now with AI is we're trying to ensure that it has the perspective of Indigenous people. A lot of our histories have been rewritten, or AI tends to honor the perspective of a colonial white cis male. And so when you go to ask it questions, it doesn't necessarily know the truths of our people. And there's so many opportunities. There's lots of Indigenous people getting involved in tech. But don't let it stop you even just with Indigenous people. There are so many unique perspectives. There's so many ways that we can combine collective and individual sovereignty. They work together, and I think if we keep that at the forefront of our mind when we're developing our AI projects and our work, it's going to get you really far.
Thank you, Shani. And one of the things I picked up on there and listening to you actually was I was thinking about, we talk about all these different types of training data that go in. We talk about artificial intelligence, but what I was hearing there was also ancestral intelligence, which is critical, putting all of that and bringing it in, the richness that we have in our communities. What are the indicators that you both look at to ensure that the work, the efforts, the energies that are going into this is indeed taking us in the right direction? This is all new territory, okay? So we're all kind of feeling our way out there. So what is it that you're looking at to see what needs to be done, and if you're moving and taking down the right path? Shani.
Sure. Well, in terms of our tool, Wasigan Kisawatsuen, which translates to kind electricity, we are testing our model up against other models. So we'll see what answer we're getting from Wasigan with our fine-tuned data compared to Gemini or ChatGPT or other models out there. And what we'll find is if you were to ask Gemini if Kalivik is a residential school, which are schools that were created by the Canadian government and the church in Canada to assimilate and essentially harm our communities. If you ask it about that school, it says no, it's a boarding school, and it starts to give a very interesting answer about why it's come to that conclusion. Whereas Wasigan Kisawatsuen will say, yes, it is a residential school, and it was the last residential school that closed in 1997, which is not that long ago. And that's a very important distinction to make, because in Canada, Canada has that responsibility to make amends for the harms that happened in those schools, and has a responsibility for what has happened there. And so if AI is already starting to change that narrative, change that history, that's a problem. And what we are also doing is we're seeing how Indigenous knowledge works alongside Western knowledge. It's not one or the other. There isn't one right or wrong. They're different. And one of the stories I think of is in the West Coast in Canada, there were First Nations there that worked with a university, and they were just looking at the grizzly bears, and they knew that there were 3 genetic variations of the grizzly bears in the area, and the First Nations there were saying, yeah, we know there are relatives, and they're actually in these territories. Well, the university was like, well, let's see about that. And so they went about it with their methods, and what they found was that the map from the university of the genetic 3 grizzly bears perfectly aligned with the map of the First Nation language maps in the area. So again, we're just confirming ancestral knowledge that we've always had. Both are right. Both tell us different things, but we have to ensure that the colonial perspective isn't the favored one, that you can present all different types of data and be able to see that transparently where it came from as well with AI.
So you're actually going out there, finding these questions, running these tests, and you're able to see in the data and the responses that the LLMs give you back. Are you then also partnering up with any of these to try and evolve their models and incorporate more of your Indigenous, that sort of factual heritage knowledge into their models?
Yeah, so we're working with data that's validated by Indigenous people, but we're also going into community, working with them, collecting that information, but it's done, again, in a very relational way. We're not looking at transactions. We're not looking at making it a capitalistic endeavor. We're looking at how do you want to be involved? How do we create this together? And that way we're making something that's much more meaningful and that they become champions of. And with that, we also have a guidance circle of 9 elders from all across Canada, and they're helping inform how the tool should be built. So we have all of these elders using AI right now, which is awesome. So if you don't think you can use AI, know that there's 70 and 80-year-old women in Canada that are using it for the first time and really enjoying themselves.
Fantastic. Well, I think that is also an indicator that you're going in the right direction. But Anthony, I'm going to come back to you with the same question. What is it that you're looking at to see and make sure that you are progressing in the right direction with your work at Microsoft?
Yes, actually, you know, our mission at Microsoft is really to empower every person and every organization to achieve more on the planet. And the every and person is super important. So what we are always looking is the reach we can have and we can generate with all the initiative we have. So we publish every year a report with a lot of numbers and data about our impact, but also our commitments and the advance. And the goal is not only to share the data, but also the lessons we learn from you know, what we learn from different countries. And I mentioned the reach as an example. You know, I lead this initiative called Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, which is designed to help impact startups and impact entrepreneurs that address environmental and societal challenges, like the one we just discussed on scaling AI. We measure the reach of this program, and we have today more than 2,500 companies in this program. But the goal is also to measure how we can help them to make impact. And as an example, we partner with a company called Goldwall, based in Switzerland, now a global company actually. They are like a social network for Gen Z. They are helping to train about 2 million people, Gen Z people, with AI, and we are partnering with them. Same in France, we have built some partnership with France Travail and a startup called Kokoroe, with a target to train by the end of this year 300,000 people with AI. Same in Brazil with social entrepreneurs and social non-profit, actually, Nova Escola, and we train the teachers. So 3 million of people will be trained in Brazil. So that's the type of things we are sharing in the impact reports. That's how we measure the success and how we can make advancement. But more than the numbers, again, it's also the learnings and insight we can also share to others, and not only with the startups and the non-profit I mentioned, but also with other corporations, which is also super important because we cannot solve it alone, right? We need to work as an ecosystem, we need to work with others. And again, I would say that working together, working as one instead of just silos is really, really becoming crucial in this time.
Okay, so the reach definitely in the numbers, but also those learnings, and I'm guessing that's feedback loops as such into your programs. Fantastic. Now, let's just think about the context of inclusivity today. It's not an easy one, okay? Diversity, inclusion, equity are all things that over the last couple of months have been removed from our priorities, from policies, from funding. What does it actually mean, the future of inclusivity in an increasingly AI-driven world in this context? Shani, for you.
I think it's story of my life and a lot of my ancestors' life is these things, they come and go, and nothing changes for me. I'm still going to be an Indigenous, still woman, I'm still going to be Métis, I'm still going to be Cree, I'm still going to have my perspective of the world, and I'm still going to continue pushing for the things that I know are right. In Canada, Indigenous people are actually rights holders, so we're not supposed to be lumped into DEI. That's important because we're supposed to be partners, or our relationship is actually with the king, but that doesn't happen. So there's lots of work to be done, and in some ways I think getting rid of DEI may be good in that we can actually rebuild it the way it's supposed to, by actually bringing people in as partners, as co-collaborators, rather than a marketing or branding opportunity. When you bring those perspectives in, the product always gets better. It always reaches more people. The information is better. You learn more things. There's no real bad to including more people at the table. You're always going to get something more important. And maybe we can move around some of the language as well, from getting LGBTQ2S+ and BIPOC, when really it means you're not straight, you're not white, you're not a man. We're really creating this illusion that we are all minorities, when really, when you flip it, the minority is those folks that are in control and have most of the power in the world and creating this model, to be frank.
So less labels, more rights, and included in. I love that. Anthony, how about for yourself? What does it mean in this increasingly AI-driven world?
I fully align with Shani, actually. I think even if things are changing in the world, we need to continue and to push and stay consistent. That's super important. And that's also part of what I call the positive leadership, to stay focused on that motion if we believe it, and I believe it personally. So it's really to continue, even if we have a lot of things that moving, etc. That's super important, again, to stay consistent and have courage. We discussed a lot, in Change Now about that in leadership, in South leadership. So I would say, yeah, fully aligned with you, Shani.
Fantastic. Do either of you, for anyone out there, all those people with their hands up who are in AI development, in inclusivity, do you have any quick best practices, resources, podcasts, books, things that they should turn to help them continue their work in the sector? Anthony?
I mentioned a lot about collaboration. So I think if some of you are working on large corporations or are entrepreneurs, I recommend you to join maybe some initiatives we have around this learning and best practice. We are part of an initiative in the World Economic Forum called AI for Social Innovation and Corporate Leadership Council. So I'm happy to share more details with you if you want to reach out. We have a booth, Microsoft booth, so I'm happy to share that. But it's a good opportunity to learn each other and share some practices. In terms of podcast...
I'm going to ask you to, because we have 1 minute left on the clock, and I do want to get to Shani, but grab Anthony off stage to get his podcast.
I have also other recommendations, so happy to share that.
Shani.
I think for me, I always just question what is best practice, especially when it comes to AI. It's something that's so new. best practice is going to be based on, I'm going to sound like a broken record, on the white perspective. So try to break that down, bring people in, listen to others, create something new, work in the unknown, partner, co-collaborate, listen to Indigenous people. I have so many books, 21 Things You Didn't Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph, Indigenous Rights by Chelsea Vowell, The Big Melt by Emily Riddle, Unreserved is a podcast, Two Crees in a Pod is a podcast. Anything that you listen to about Indigenous people is going to improve your project. You're going to see how you can do it in a relational way and how everything you do impacts 7 generations in front of us, 7 generations back. If you keep that in your mind, you're going to create an amazing product.
Thank you, Shani. Both Shani and Anthony, you've definitely impacted our audience here. Thank you so much to you both.